setting the stage Russian aviation in the spotlight. The skies over Ukraine have become a crucible, a testing ground for the future of Russian aviation. Since February 2022, the industry has found itself navigating a turbulent airspace, grappling with sanctions, isolation, and the pressing need for self-reliance. This is a story of adaptation, of challenges met with both ingenuity and uncertainty. It's a story that extends far beyond the battlefield, impacting commercial airliners and military jets alike. Our journey begins with an unflinching look at the current state of Russian aviation, dissecting the multifaceted impact of the Ukraine conflict. We'll delve into the immediate repercussions felt by commercial airlines, grounded by closed airspace, and forced to navigate a new reality. The scramble for alternative routes, the scramble for passengers, will paint a vivid picture of an industry in flux. But this is just one side of the coin. The seizure of foreign aircraft, a bold move with far-reaching consequences, thrusts Russia onto the center stage of international aviation law. We'll examine the legal battles, the economic implications, and the erosion of trust that followed this unprecedented action. The aftershocks will be felt for years to come, reshaping the landscape of aircraft leasing and international cooperation. Before the storm, a glimpse into the past. To truly grasp the magnitude of the present, we must first understand the past. Before the conflict, Russian aviation had been on an upward trajectory, albeit one marked by its own set of hurdles. The fall of the Soviet Union left a void, a fragmented industry struggling to find its footing in a rapidly globalizing world. Yet, amidst the challenges, ambition flickered. Russia, with its vast landmass and history of aerospace innovation, harbored dreams of reclaiming its place among the giants of aviation. Domestic airlines like Aeroflot, once symbols of Soviet might, sought to modernize their fleets and expand their reach beyond the familiar borders of the former Soviet republics. There were promising partnerships, tentative steps towards integrating with the global market. Joint ventures with Western companies held the allure of technological advancement, of bridging the gap between ambition and reality. But beneath the surface, lingering tensions, political realities, and economic vulnerabilities cast long shadows. The annexation of Crimea in 2014 served as a stark warning sign, a harbinger of the turmoil to come. Sanctions, though limited in scope, exposed the fragility of Russia's reliance on foreign technology and expertise. It was a taste of what was to come, a preview of the far-reaching consequences that lay ahead. The turning point, February 2022 and beyond. February 24, 2022. This date, etched into the annals of history, marked a turning point, not just for Ukraine and Russia, but for the world. The invasion sent shockwaves rippling through the global order, shattering long-held assumptions and ushering in an era of uncertainty. For Russian aviation, it was a seismic event, a catalyst for profound and irreversible change. The immediate impact was undeniable. Airspace closures, swift and unforgiving, severed Russia from much of the Western world. Commercial flights, once symbols of interconnectedness, were grounded, stranded by the invisible barriers erected overnight. The dream of a truly global Russian airline industry seemed to evaporate in an instant. The response from the West was swift and coordinated. Sanctions, unprecedented in their scope and severity, targeted the very heart of Russia's aviation sector. Access to crucial technology, spare parts, and even maintenance services was cut off, crippling the industry's ability to operate and maintain its fleet. Yet, amidst the chaos and uncertainty, a new narrative began to emerge. A narrative of resilience, of defiance in the face of adversity. Russia, backed into a corner, vowed to forge its own path, to build a self-sufficient aviation industry, free from the shackles of Western dependence.
Faced with the daunting reality of closed airspace, Russian airlines embarked on a frantic search for alternative routes. The focus shifted eastward and southward, towards friendlier skies and emerging markets. Asia, the Middle East, and the countries of the former Soviet Union became the new battlegrounds for a beleaguered industry determined to survive. Flights to destinations like Dubai, Istanbul, and Antalya surged in popularity, offering a lifeline to Russian tourists seeking sun, sea, and a respite from the geopolitical turmoil. China, with its vast market and growing economic ties to Russia, emerged as a crucial partner with airlines like S7 Airlines and Ural Airlines adding new routes to cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. The reorientation towards new markets brought with it both challenges and opportunities. Competition for passengers and landing slots intensified, forcing airlines to adapt their strategies and pricing models. Cultural differences, visa requirements, and language barriers presented new hurdles, requiring airlines to invest in training and customer service initiatives. Yet, amidst the challenges, there were also glimmers of hope. The pivot towards the east opened up new avenues for growth and collaboration. Russian airlines, once heavily reliant on Western partners, began to explore joint ventures and code-sharing agreements with airlines in Asia and the Middle East, forging new alliances in a rapidly shifting geopolitical landscape. The combined impact of airspace closures, economic sanctions, and a climate of uncertainty took a heavy toll on passenger demand for Russian airlines. The once booming travel industry contracted sharply, leaving airlines grappling with declining revenues and mounting losses. The ruble's depreciation against major currencies made international travel prohibitively expensive for many Russian citizens, further dampening demand. Fear of potential disruptions coupled with the logistical headaches of navigating alternative routes prompted many travelers to postpone or cancel their plans altogether. To attract passengers and fill empty seats, airlines resorted to aggressive discounting, loyalty program incentives, and even charter flights to popular tourist destinations. However, these measures often came at the cost of profitability, further squeezing margins in an already challenging environment. The shrinking market forced airlines to make difficult decisions. Fleet expansion plans were put on hold, and older, less fuel-efficient aircraft were retired prematurely. Routes with low passenger numbers were suspended, and staff were furloughed or laid off as airlines tightened their belts and braced for a prolonged period of turbulence. The economic fallout from the Ukraine conflict cast a long shadow over the future of Russian aviation. Sanctions, coupled with the loss of international routes and declining passenger numbers, inflicted heavy losses on airlines and sent shockwaves through the entire industry. The ruble's depreciation made leasing aircraft and purchasing spare parts, most of which are priced in US dollars or euros, significantly more expensive. Access to financing dried up as Western banks and investors shunned Russian companies, further limiting the industry's ability to invest and adapt. The long-term implications of the conflict remain uncertain, but the path ahead is fraught with challenges. The Russian government, determined to support its aviation industry, has pledged billions of dollars in financial aid, but it remains to be seen whether these measures will be sufficient to offset the impact of sanctions and market contraction. The future of Russian aviation hinges on a complex interplay of factors, including the duration and intensity of the conflict, the trajectory of sanctions, and the industry's ability to adapt, innovate, and forge new partnerships in a rapidly changing world. The road to recovery will be long and arduous, requiring resilience, resourcefulness, and a willingness to embrace new paradigms.
The Great Impoundment, a controversial move. As sanctions tightened, hundreds of foreign-leased aircraft were stranded in Russia. The Kremlin refused to return the aircraft to their foreign owners. Leasing companies found themselves in uncharted territory. Contracts were rendered meaningless overnight. Billions of dollars worth of aircraft were impounded. The decision was a calculated gamble by the Kremlin. It provided a boost to Russian airlines. It raised serious questions about aircraft leasing security. Western governments condemned the move. The International Air Transport Association warned of long-term consequences. Navigating international aviation law. The impoundment of leased aircraft plunged the aviation world into a legal quagmire. Leasing companies launched a multi-pronged legal offensive to reclaim their assets. Lawsuits were filed in courts across Europe and North America. Insurance claims, totaling billions of dollars, triggered disputes over liability. The stakes are high for the future of aircraft leasing and global aviation stability. A Pyrrhic victory, the costs and benefits of nationalization. Faced with mounting legal pressure and the prospect of protracted legal battles, Russia took another controversial step. It began nationalizing some of the impounded aircraft, effectively transferring ownership from foreign leasing companies to Russian airlines. The move, while providing a short-term solution to the immediate crisis, came with significant long-term costs. On the surface, nationalization appeared to offer a way for Russia to circumvent sanctions and secure its domestic aviation industry. By transferring ownership to Russian entities, the aircraft were no longer subject to foreign leasing agreements or the threat of seizure by foreign courts. Russian airlines, desperate to maintain their fleets and keep flying, welcomed the move as a lifeline. However, the long-term costs of nationalization are likely to outweigh any short-term benefits. The move further alienated foreign investors and leasing companies, sending a chilling message about the risks of doing business in Russia. It also raised serious questions about Russia's respect for international law and its commitment to upholding contracts. The nationalization of foreign assets is likely to have a lasting impact on Russia's creditworthiness and its ability to attract foreign investment, not just in the aviation sector, but across all industries. The reputational damage, both for Russian companies and the Russian government, could take years, if not decades, to repair. Section 4. The leasing landscape, a chilling effect on future deals. The impoundment and subsequent nationalization of foreign-leased aircraft sent shockwaves through the global aviation industry, casting a long shadow over the future of aircraft leasing and cross-border transactions. Leasing companies, once eager to do business with Russian airlines, are now reassessing their risk profiles and demanding higher premiums for any future deals. The chilling effect on the leasing market is already being felt. New aircraft deliveries to Russia have slowed to a trickle, with Boeing and Airbus, the world's two largest aircraft manufacturers, suspending deliveries indefinitely. Leasing companies, wary of further seizures, are reluctant to place new orders for aircraft destined for the Russian market. The impact on Russian airlines is significant. Without access to new aircraft, their ability to modernize their fleets, expand their route networks, and compete effectively with international carriers is severely limited. The nationalization of existing aircraft, while providing a temporary reprieve, is not a sustainable long-term solution. The crisis has also highlighted the interconnectedness of the global aviation industry and the importance of international cooperation and trust. The breakdown of that trust, as a result of Russia's actions, is likely to have lasting consequences, not just for Russia, but for the entire industry. Section 5. Shifting alliances, seeking alternatives in the East. As the West imposed sanctions, Russia turned to Asia and the Middle East for aviation support. China and Turkey emerged as key partners, offering aircraft, parts, and maintenance. Chinese leasing companies and Turkish airlines continued operations, defying Western pressure. However, these alliances face constraints and potential secondary sanctions. Section 6. A new era of uncertainty. The long-term implications for ownership and trust. The crisis has exposed vulnerabilities in global aviation, raising questions about aircraft ownership and international contracts. Leasing companies may demand stricter terms and higher premiums. Airlines in sensitive regions will face higher costs and scrutiny. The ICAO must restore trust and promote transparency.
Western sanctions on Russian aviation led to a maintenance crisis. Partnerships with Western providers like Lufthansa Technik unraveled overnight. Russian airlines struggled with a shrinking inventory of essential components. Sophisticated aircraft relied on Western parts and software, now inaccessible. Airlines scrambled for workarounds and alternative solutions. The global aviation supply chain became a minefield for Russian airlines. Established channels evaporated, and Western suppliers couldn't fulfill orders. Airlines turned to a shadowy network of brokers for parts. The gray market offered a lifeline, but posed safety risks. Counterfeit parts threatened flight safety. Parts. Russian airlines resorted to cannibalization to keep planes flying. Grounded aircraft were stripped of parts to maintain operational ones. Engineers used reverse engineering and 3D printing to create domestic alternatives. Cannibalization was a temporary solution, demanding long-term answers. Innovation and resourcefulness were crucial in facing extraordinary circumstances. Section 4. Turning East. Seeking solace in alternative supply chains. Russia turned to China for aviation support amid Western sanctions. Chinese companies offered parts, but faced challenges and potential secondary sanctions. Chinese products sometimes lacked Western safety certifications. The climate of uncertainty required careful navigation. Section 5. The Domestic Imperative. A long and arduous road to self-reliance. Sanctions exposed Russia's dependence on foreign technology. Investments in domestic innovation aimed to achieve technological sovereignty. Universities received funding to nurture future engineers. The challenge was to foster a culture of innovation and self-reliance. Section 6. A future clouded by uncertainty. The long-term implications for safety and standards. Sanctions and self-reliance cast doubt on Russia's aviation safety. The international community watched with concern. Transparency and collaboration were crucial to maintaining safety standards. Russia needed to balance self-reliance with safety commitments.
Trial by fire. The Ukraine conflict as testing ground. The conflict exposed vulnerabilities in Russian military aviation. Ukrainian resistance challenged Russian air superiority. The lessons learned had profound implications for future military aviation. The conflict highlighted the need for adaptability and new tactics. The limits of power. Exposing vulnerabilities and shortcomings. The conflict revealed weaknesses in Russia's military aviation. The lack of precision-guided munitions was a significant liability. Russian pilots faced increased risks from Ukrainian air defenses. The limitations of Russia's electronic warfare capabilities were exposed. A doctrine upended rethinking tactics in the face of resistance. The conflict forced Russian military planners to adapt tactics. Large-scale air campaigns gave way to targeted operations. Flexibility and adaptability became crucial. The risk of losses and civilian casualties influenced new strategies. Section 4. The Drone Revolution, Embracing Unmanned Warfare's Potential. The conflict in Ukraine showcased the growing importance of unmanned aerial vehicles, or drones, in modern warfare, prompting Russia to accelerate its own drone development programs and integrate these versatile platforms more fully into its military operations. Drones, once considered a niche capability, proved their worth in a variety of roles, from reconnaissance and surveillance to electronic warfare and even direct attacks on enemy targets. Their ability to operate for extended periods, gather intelligence, and strike with precision made them invaluable assets in the Ukrainian theater. Russia, initially lagging behind Western nations in drone technology, found itself playing catch-up, deploying a mix of domestically produced drones, such as the Orlan 10 and 4-post, alongside imported systems, primarily from Iran. The conflict provided valuable operational experience, highlighting both the strengths and weaknesses of these systems. The use of Iranian-made Shahed 136 loitering munitions, or kamikaze drones, in attacks against Ukrainian infrastructure and civilian targets, while condemned by the international community, underscored the evolving nature of drone warfare and the ethical dilemmas posed by these increasingly sophisticated weapon systems. Section 5. The Modernization Imperative, Racing to Close the Technological Gap. The conflict in Ukraine exposed a stark reality for the Russian military. Despite years of modernization efforts and billions of dollars in defense spending, A technological gap had emerged between Russia and its Western counterparts, particularly in the realm of military aviation. The conflict served as a wake-up call, prompting a renewed sense of urgency within the Russian defense establishment to accelerate modernization programs, invest in cutting-edge technologies, and bridge the capability gap that had become apparent on the battlefield. One of the key priorities was the development and deployment of stealth technology, an area where Russia had lagged behind the United States. The Sukhoi Su-57, Russia's first fifth-generation fighter jet, designed to rival the American F-22 Raptor and F-35 Lightning II, faced delays and production challenges, highlighting the complexities of developing and fielding such advanced aircraft. Beyond stealth, Russia also focused on enhancing the capabilities of its existing fleet, upgrading avionics, sensors, and electronic warfare systems to better counter the threats posed by Western-made air defenses and fighter jets. The development of hypersonic missiles, capable of evading existing missile defense systems, also became a key priority, as Russia sought to maintain a credible deterrent against NATO. Adapting to a new era of warfare. The conflict in Ukraine will have a lasting impact on Russian military aviation, forcing a reassessment of doctrines and priorities. Lessons learned will shape Russian air power for decades. The conflict underscored the importance of adaptability and innovation. Russia faced an agile adversary equipped with advanced Western weapons. The experience highlighted the need for a balanced approach to military power. The days of relying on overwhelming firepower alone are over.
The specter of sanctions looms large over Russian aviation, a constant reminder of economic and technological constraints. These sanctions have morphed into a chronic ailment, stifling the industry's ability to modernize and compete globally. The most immediate impact is felt in technology acquisition. Western aircraft manufacturers remain bound by sanctions, their order books closed. This slams the brakes on fleet renewal, forcing reliance on aging aircraft. Maintenance becomes a high-stakes game of workaround and improvisation. The technological bottleneck extends to air traffic control and training simulators. The sanctions imposed on Russia have ignited a spark of necessity, driving domestic innovation and self-sufficiency. The Kremlin has responded with financial incentives and policy directives. This drive for self-reliance is not without its challenges. Developing complex systems requires significant resources and expertise. The current crisis has breathed new life into research institutions and manufacturing plants. The focus is on exploring new frontiers, from hypersonic aircraft to unmanned aerial vehicles. Success in these areas could potentially leapfrog its rivals. The conflict in Ukraine has shattered old certainties in aviation. Russia now navigates a multipolar landscape with shifting alliances. Sanctions push Russia towards Eastern partnerships. China emerges as a crucial partner. Potential allies include India, Turkey, and Southeast Asia. The future depends on forging new alliances and navigating a multipolar world. Section 4. The talent conundrum, nurturing expertise in an era of isolation. The success of aviation hinges on a skilled workforce. Russia faces challenges in attracting and retaining top-tier talent due to isolation and brain drain. Sanctions have erected barriers to knowledge sharing and professional development. Engineers are increasingly cut off from global expertise. Prolonged isolation could debilitate the industry's prospects. The Kremlin is investing in initiatives to stem brain drain and attract talent. Balancing national pride with safety concerns. The conflict in Ukraine and sanctions have created a complex dynamic within Russian society. There's a deep sense of national pride and determination to thrive despite Western pressure. Government officials and ordinary Russians show resilience, viewing challenges as a test of character. Beneath the optimism lies anxiety about the costs of sanctions and isolation. The government must balance projecting confidence with addressing safety concerns. Defining the future of Russian aviation. The Russian aviation industry stands at a crossroads, its future uncertain. with challenges and opportunities. Decisions by policymakers and industry leaders will determine if Russian aviation can reclaim its global standing. The path of bold ambition and innovation promises a brighter future, making Russian aviation a source of national pride.
Section 1. A crossroads in the clouds. The Russian aviation industry finds itself at a pivotal juncture. Its wings clipped by sanctions, its ambitions challenged by a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. The conflict in Ukraine has cast a long shadow, exposing vulnerabilities, accelerating trends, and forcing a fundamental reassessment of priorities. The once familiar skies of global interconnectedness have given way to a more turbulent airspace, where political headwinds buffet even the most determined of flyers. The easy reliance on Western technology and partnerships, a hallmark of the post-Soviet era, has been replaced by a scramble for self-sufficiency, a race against time to bridge a widening technological gap. The consequences of these shifts are far-reaching, impacting not only the bottom lines of airlines and the strategic calculations of the Kremlin, but also the daily lives of ordinary Russians. The dream of a truly global Russian airline industry, once within reach, now seems a distant prospect, replaced by a more inward-looking focus on maintaining domestic connectivity and exploring alternative partnerships in the East. Section 2. The unpredictable horizon. Predicting the future of Russian aviation is akin to forecasting the weather patterns of a distant planet. The variables are numerous, their interactions complex, and the potential outcomes ranging from a gradual decline to a phoenix-like resurgence. Much will depend on factors beyond the control of even the most astute industry analysts or seasoned Kremlin watchers. The duration and intensity of the conflict in Ukraine, the trajectory of sanctions, and the willingness of Western nations to re-engage with Russia will all play a significant role in shaping the industry's fate. Internally, the Kremlin's commitment to self-reliance, the success of its import substitution programs, and its ability to attract and retain skilled labor will be crucial in determining whether Russia can overcome the technological bottlenecks and supply chain disruptions that currently hamper its aviation sector. The stakes are high, not only for Russia's economic ambitions, but also for its national pride and its aspirations to remain a major player on the global stage. The world will be watching closely as Russian aviation navigates this turbulent period, its wings tested, its resilience challenged, its future hanging in the balance. Despite the formidable challenges, it would be premature to write off the Russian aviation industry. Throughout its history, from the pioneering days of Sikorsky and Tupolev to the modern era of supersonic jets and space exploration, Russian aviation has demonstrated a remarkable capacity for innovation, a deep well of technical expertise, and an enduring spirit of adventure. The current crisis, while undoubtedly a setback, could also serve as a catalyst for a new era of Russian aviation, one defined by pragmatism, adaptability, and a renewed focus on homegrown solutions. The ingenuity and determination of Russian engineers, the skills of its pilots, and the aspirations of a new generation eager to leave their mark on the world should not be underestimated. The skies above Russia, once traversed by the likes of Aeroflot as a symbol of national prestige, may now be filled with aircraft bearing the livery of new airlines, flying to new destinations, powered by engines designed and built in Russia. The journey will be turbulent, the destination uncertain, but the spirit of flight, that enduring human desire to conquer the skies, remains as strong as ever in the hearts of the Russian people.